My name's Nick Jones. I'm a recovering junkie. Um, I have had drug and alcohol problems on and off throughout my life. From a pretty young age, started doing drugs at around 14, and the problem got worse and worse in my life. I'm currently sober from drugs and alcohol. I've had some different bottoms in my life that have led me to some pretty dark places. I've been homeless before. I have overdosed a number of times. All sorts of fun stuff that got me to this place. In a perfect world, I would be able to do as many drugs and alcohol, as much drugs and alcohol as I wanted, and there'd be no consequences, no problems. I'd still be able to show up for work, see my family and loved ones, and my health would still be good. Unfortunately, I can't do any of those. All those things go away when I start drinking and drugging. And so I wasn't able to realize that I had a serious problem until I was homeless, until I was living next to a freeway, and sleeping in a homeless shelter. And then at that point, I realized that my drug intake and my alcohol intake was way too much, and that was the reason why I was homeless and that I had lost everything in my life. Well, one of the ways I was able to justify my drug use was that I thought I was only hurting myself. It's extremely impactful on my loved ones, and I've put them through hell, and I'm not proud of it. One good way to look at it is I suffer from two diseases. I have a physical disease, and then I also have, I guess, alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever, if you want to consider it a disease. And the physical disease I have is an autoimmune disease, and people pity you and feel bad for you when you are suffering from it because, there's no cure for it, and, it's not my fault that I'm sick. With drug addiction and alcoholism, people get really resentful and pissed off at me, rightly so, because they think that I can control it. It's also a disease too, but it just, the way it rears its head is it's really ugly, and I don't give a shit about anyone else around me, and it's basically I put myself through hell and my loved ones around me. So the disease is like a tornado or something, and whereas my autoimmune disease, people don't really get that upset with me. My behavior, my actions change because I physically am handicapped, but my behavior doesn't change. So it's a good way to see the difference in the diseases. After being homeless, I went to a rehab, and rehab doesn't really keep you sober, but it's a good place to go if you need to distance yourself, get out of like an area. For like a month or two, it's good to just get away for a minute and then come back. And the only thing that has worked for me for any consistency is the 12-step fellowships. Through that, I was able to get about 2 years, 100% clean and sober, nothing. And then I relapsed after there was some traumatic stuff that happened to me in my life, but it was still my fault. The relapse, you know, other people have been through, worse and can stay sober through it. Well, drug addiction and alcoholism is, from my understanding, it's considered a disease because it's progressive and it's fatal. I'm not like a mental health professional, but I think the treatment is like cognitive behavioral therapy of some sort or something like that. I think that that's what the 12-step fellowships are about, but I'm not certain, to be honest. So my experience is that, yeah, it progressively gets worse as you get older. Even after having, 2 years clean and sober, when I first started drinking again, it wasn't that bad, but then pretty quickly it took me to like newer lows. I got arrested and I started overdosing and all those sorts of fun things that come with being a drug addict. I wish that I could, drink normally and socially and stuff. My experience shows that I can't. I'd like to believe that at some day I could, but realistically, there's a slim chance of that ever being true. I constantly tell my mind constantly tells myself that at some point somewhere in the future I'll be, cured or whatever, and I'll have abstained for long enough that I'll be able to drink again. But unfortunately, I don't think I can drink or do drugs again in the future. I think I'll just eventually get to a really fucked place again.